If you've already set up screen sharing in a school, you know how annoying it can get. Every classroom has different devices, the dongles on the cart can get misplaced or lost, and half the time, the teacher probably just emails the presentation to themselves and loads it on their screen manually. But there's a much easier way to accomplish this, and we've already helped 5,700 schools do it. Any device can share to any classroom display at any time, only the right people can take over a screen, and IT can manage it from a single dashboard. Let's dive in. The first thing to figure out with screen sharing in a school is how to get every device sharing to every display. The tools that come built into most interactive flat panel devices usually only support one or two device types. That means the Chromebook that student A is using, and the iPad that student B is using, and the MacBook that the teacher is using, and the Windows laptop that the substitute is using might not all work with the one device in the classroom. And if any of those devices aren't supported, everything stops while the teacher goes and looks for an adapter. So a way to solve this is by going with a screen sharing solution that's OS agnostic, which means it works the same way regardless of what type of device your students or staff or teachers are using. To solve this, you can use something like Rise Vision. That's our all-in-one platform for screen sharing, digital signage, and emergency alerts. With Rise Vision, any teacher or student can share from their MacBook, their Windows laptop, their Android device, or their iPad without needing to install any extra software on their end. And because nothing gets installed on these devices, IT doesn't have to worry about an update breaking something or keeping devices updated. From there, you've got two ways to share that cover any scenario in a classroom. Browser-based sharing is the fastest option, where the user opens their browser, enters a screen share code, and then shares their content without having to install anything. And for tablets, there's dedicated apps for Android and iOS, which is important because in the classroom, a lot of work happens on iPads. Where this really pays off is student collaboration, where multiple students can share to the screen at the front of the classroom without any lag or disruption. One student presents their work, the next student connects without disconnecting any cables, and the teacher can pull quiet students into the discussion by inviting them to share. And because no one has to install anything on their devices to share, students that would normally set out these opportunities can participate from any laptop or tablet they may have available. By the way, if at any point in this video you decide you'd like to try out Rise Vision in your school, check out the link in the description to get a free demo. Now let's keep going. Once cross-platform screen sharing is working, the next thing to set up is who's actually allowed to share to these screens. Because the moment any device can connect to any screen, you also need a way to make sure that the wrong person isn't sharing to a screen down the hall. In a school, that means one student in a classroom can't push content to the screen in another classroom, and only approved presenters should be able to share at any given time. The first feature that solves this problem is our moderator mode, which gives the teacher a waiting room for students to join and gives them access to authorize those students to share to their screen. So the teacher sees a request from the student come in, taps approve, and the student's screen goes up on the display in front of the classroom. The teacher can then end the share whenever they want to move on. Then you have Code Connect, which makes sure people connect to the right display that's sitting right in front of them instead of the one down the hall. The way this works is each display generates its own short code that's displayed, and then the user has to enter that code on their own device. That way, even if there's 30 displays in the same building, no one ends up casting to the wrong classroom. The last part of setup is cross-network sharing, which is what handles the network restrictions that most districts have between student devices and teacher devices. Most districts run separate VLANs for student, teacher, and guest devices for security reasons, and a lot of screen sharing tools can't share between all of these different VLANs. A good screen sharing platform will support VLAN, Wi-Fi, and Ethernet, so a student on the student network can still share to a device on the teacher network without IT having to merge networks or open up access between them. The last part of this is managing screen sharing in every classroom across the school, because what works in one classroom only matters if it can scale across the 50 classrooms of the school without IT having to walk in and fix something every time you try it. In a typical school, each classroom display is in a different room on a different floor, and anytime something goes wrong with screen sharing in one room, classroom, that's a teacher submitting a ticket and a member of IT walking over to that classroom to get it fixed. The way to solve this is through cloud-based screen sharing, where you manage every screen sharing device in the building through one online dashboard. This allows your IT team to see the status of every device, push updates, restart devices, and make other changes without ever leaving their desk. So if something does need a fix in a classroom, they can handle it from wherever they are, instead of having to drive across the district from building to building constantly. One thing this also allows is making use of the hardware that you already have, instead of buying new displays, which is where a lot of schools end up, because they have interactive flat panels with screen sharing technology that no one uses. The reason no one uses it is because the built-in tool only works with certain devices, or it requires another vendor app on their personal device, or the panel is from a vendor whose screen sharing is just plain slow and unreliable. So what we do at Rise Vision is add a screen sharing layer on top of those displays. So the interactive flat panel that's already mounted on the wall in that classroom actually gets used without having to replace the hardware or train teachers on an entirely new app. So if you want to try Rise Vision screen sharing in your school, the simplest way is to sign up for a free demo by clicking the first link in the description of this video. Our team will walk you through how it runs on the displays that you already have, show you the right security setup that fits your district's network, and help you get your first classrooms live. Again, you can get your free demo of Rise Vision screen sharing by clicking the first link in the description of this video. And if you want to learn how to set up digital signage in your school step by step, check out this next video.